New details emerge as production begins on Star Wars Starfighter, and discussion from the world of publishing where online cancelitis rears its ugly head once again. It's all coming up on the New Adventures of Indiana Jim, Episode 7, for the week of August 31st, 2025.
Coming to you not exactly live from
the cliffs of insanity!
It must be Indiana Jim.
Well, I am excited for this one because I have got a jam-packed episode full of news and analysis and controversial takes right here on the New Adventures of Indiana Jim. So if you're new to the program, I am Indiana Jim, your intrepid arch-geekologist. And here we hunt for treasure across the world of entertainment, including books, movies, TV, and music. And we traverse the wild frontiers of podcasting and publishing. Greetings to you, conversationalists and thrill seekers all across the fruited plain. As I said, we've got a really big show, plenty of juicy news stories, and a big discussion. We are ready to go today. So throughout the course of the program, if you feel like interjecting your thoughts, please email those to indianajimpodcasts@gmail.com, and I will feature your comments in the next episode. That's indianajimpodcasts@gmail.com. If you are watching on YouTube or listening via Substack, you can simply leave your comments below the video or on the post for this episode. One of the things I wanted to touch base on real quick was I've made further adjustments to how I do things with regards to signal-to-noise ratio, the Hush noise reduction app, and I'm going to do a full video on this, so I'm not going to bog you down with more details about that. I'm hopeful that there will be some improvement to the sound quality. I've dialed back the mix level on Hush while also kind of playing with the way I use compression, both in the recording of the audio and the mastering of the final file before I move it over to DaVinci Resolve. So hopefully we'll have some good results there. We're going to see how this one goes. But again, I'm not going to bog us down with talk of all that. So right now, it is time to get into AIJ News. So, what do we have from Star Wars, from Lucasfilm? StarWars.com. Lucasfilm announces casting for Star Wars Starfighter. The Shawn Levy directed film has begun production in the UK. Here we have a nice shot of Mr. Gosling and the young Flynn Gray sitting on the side of a speeder in a very Star Wars-looking locale. And we read, today, to mark the start of production on Star Wars Starfighter, Lucasfilm has announced the full cast for the upcoming feature film from Shawn Levy. Joining the previously announced Ryan Gosling, the film stars Flynn Gray, who's the kid we saw seated there, Matt Smith of Doctor Whom fame, Mia Goth, Aaron Pierre of Rebel Ridge, Jamel Westman, Daniel Ings, and Amy Adams, who, as we understand, is set to play the mother of Flynn Gray's character. Star Wars Starfighter is an all-new standalone adventure. The film, which has begun production, is an entirely original story set in a period of time never before explored in Star Wars. Starfighter will be released theatrically May 28th, 2027. Now, that period of time never explored, we assume to mean directly following The Rise of Skywalker. Quote, I feel a profound sense of excitement and honor as we begin production on Star Wars Starfighter, says filmmaker Shawn Levy. Or Levy, I don't know. From the day Kathy Kennedy called me up inviting me to develop an original adventure in this incredible Star Wars galaxy. This experience has been a dream come true creatively and personally. Star Wars shaped my sense of what story can do, how characters and cinematic moments can live with us forever. To join this storytelling galaxy with such brilliant collaborators on screen and off is the thrill of a lifetime. It is directed by Shawn Levy, produced by Levy and Kathleen Kennedy. Executive producers are Ryan Gosling, Dan Levine, Mary McLaglen, and Josh McLaglen. The script is by Jonathan Tropper. So let's take a look at that real quick. Writer Jonathan Tropper has written a few well-regarded projects here. I thought The Atom Project, honestly, was a fairly decent sci-fi fantasy film in the vein of Flight of the Navigator. He created and wrote on Banshee, which I think was a Max, Cinemax, not Max, Cinemax. Well, I guess Max, HBO Max, wasn't that a combination of the two, I think? So apparently that was pretty good, brought to you by the creators of True Detective, so he worked with those people, whoever those people are. He wrote C, the show about Jason Momoa being blind. Warrior, which was a martial arts series based on the writings of Bruce Lee. And Your Friends and Neighbors, which of course starred everyone's favorite madman, John Hamm. Now, I've not personally watched any of these except for The Atom Project. So, of course, that's difficult to tell how things are going to go. You can't look at a person's previous projects and say, well, that's exactly how this new project is going to pan out. He has quite a wide range of experience writing different things, different genres, so we'll see how that goes next. But the big news, and this comes to us from the Insider, Jeff Snyder's newsletter, and his most recent issue said, today Lucasfilm announced that newcomer Flynn Gray will star opposite Ryan Gosling in Star Wars Starfighter, and it says who he'll be, all the other cast names that are listed there. Meanwhile, you may be wondering who is shooting this movie for director Shawn Levy, and I can exclusively report that Oscar-winning cinematographer Claudio Miranda will serve as the DP on Starfighter. He won his Oscar for Life of Pi and was also nominated for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. More recently, Miranda shot Top Gun Maverick and F1 the movie for director Joseph Kosinski, which should give you some idea of what Levy is going for, visually at least, in Starfighter, which will hit theaters on May 28th, 2027. So I took a look at Claudio Miranda's cinematography, and there's a lot of stuff in here that I really like. Let's go back all the way to 2006, one of my favorite movies, Failure to Launch with Matthew McConaughey. Honestly, a really fun romantic comedy. It's not quite as good as Fool's Gold that he did with Goldie Hawn's daughter. Can't remember her name, but so it's got a rom-com. We've got The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, a mystery thriller type thing, right? Tron Legacy. Good-looking film, even if you don't necessarily like the story or the nostalgia bait of it. A great-looking film, well shot. Life of Pi, of course, Oscar winner. Oblivion, one of my most unsung favorite films, beautifully shot. If you've never watched Oblivion, I know, Tom Cruise, I get it. Not the tightest story as far as screenplays go, but again, we're talking cinematography, and Oblivion is one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. Tomorrowland, which of course had George Clooney. Let's see. Only the Brave, which was an IMAX film about firefighters. That was, from what I understand, pretty good movie. Of course, Top Gun Maverick. You couple that with F1 the movie, and you've got something that purports to be a lot of zoom, flashy flyby bits. He has experience with flying objects and even fake flying objects. You know, Oblivion has that really kind of interesting flying ball with wings thing that they have in there, which of course is not real, but the special effects are really well done. And what with the with F1 with the cars in that one, Top Gun Maverick with all the planes, he's very good with vehicular photography. So, but also vehicular photography in the realm of special effects, making it look like real vehicle photography. If that comes through, then I think we're going to have a really beautifully shot Star Wars film. I think we're going to have a very kinetic, exciting Star Wars film. We don't know yet who's going to be the composer of the score, but that is really quite a good get as far as the director goes. Shawn Levy, however you want to say it. You know, Deadpool versus Wolverine, or Deadpool versus Deadpool and Wolverine was a popular film that was fairly successful at the box office, pretty well regarded by most people who have watched it. I haven't. Did Levy do Free Guy, maybe? I'm not sure. But this, while Shawn Levy does comedy pretty well, I think most of that is probably thanks to Ryan Reynolds, his ability sort of to improvise, some of the ways they do ad libs and such. So, and based on the variety of genres that screenwriter Jonathan Tropper has worked in, I feel like this is going to be a well-balanced film. And the more details they release about it, the more excited I get. I can take or leave Ryan Gosling. I think he's a fine actor. But given all the different people that are coming together for this thing so far, that sounds really good. I'm hoping to see F1 tomorrow, Memorial Day. So we'll see how that goes and see whether or not I actually get to do that. Next item up for bid. Paramount seeking rights to make a Call of Duty movie, it's claimed. This comes to us from Insider Gaming. It has been reported that Paramount is seeking the rights to adapt Call of Duty into a movie, with the film reportedly being a priority for the 110-year-old picture production firm. I don't know why they put that in there, but it's there. Nothing has been confirmed beyond this, and it's not yet known in what form a potential Call of Duty movie would surface. Fans were quick to criticize the news, with some stressing that it's not the right time for a Call of Duty movie, and others wondering if the film would include Beavis and Butthead skins. Well, let's touch on that first, that it's not the right time for a Call of Duty movie. Has it ever really been the wrong time for a war movie? Not sure when would be a better time. Now, you could argue that a better time for a Call of Duty movie might have been when films like The Hurt Locker was popular, or let's even go back to when 24 was one of the highest rated television shows in existence, back when the War on Terror was at its height. You could say that maybe the market's not ready for a Call of Duty movie, but then again, if this even happens, we're looking probably 5, 6, 7 years down the road, so we don't even know what shape that would take. But honestly, I'm kind of shocked that it's taken this long for someone to try to, or a studio to try to buy the rights to Call of Duty. Now, of course, it is one of the highest selling video game franchises of all time and of current time, though it is having its struggles. But they continue. Is a Call of Duty movie being made? Before the Microsoft and Activision Blizzard acquisition, rumors regarding a Call of Duty movie were circulating. In a recent report from Puck News, the claim surfaced along with a note that a Call of Duty film is a high priority for Paramount's new leadership team. The sentiment surrounding the news has been pretty tough, with fans suggesting it could be another Borderlands movie, which was released in 2024 to a woeful reception. Other Call of Duty fans have posted screenshots of the countless war flicks we've received over the last few decades, stating that they're all Call of Duty movies in theory. Paramount might go the route of creating something original, but for it to be a Call of Duty movie, it might need to follow a path already established by the game franchise. For instance, a movie-based replication of the Modern Warfare series might do well because it's already so cinematic, but then it lacks originality. So, regardless of whether anybody thinks the time is right for a Call of Duty movie. That is there a time that's right for any movie? And if in fact you're producing a movie because you feel like it's the right time, are you not then just making a movie to fit the market instead of making a good film? Now, it would be hard to argue that the priority for Paramount here is making a good film. It all depends on who they could hire to make it, who the director would be, who the screenwriter would be, and so many different factors going into it. What would the story be like, and would the story simply be? What is it about Call of Duty that makes that a Call of Duty movie? Take a film like First Night, starring Sean Connery and Richard Gere, where Sean Connery played King Arthur and Richard Gere was Lancelot, and Julia Ormond was Guinevere, and the story of the movie didn't really follow any particular interpretation of the Arthur legend. In fact, it could have been a King Richard of some sort, or it could have been any king in a random romance story. But I think the fact that the idea came from King Arthur with Lancelot and Guinevere having this affair sort of behind King Arthur's back, that served as the launching point. And so I think that's why they took that angle. But it's also one of my favorite movies. One of the criticisms at the time, and I think is fair, is this didn't have to be a King Arthur movie. It didn't have to be King Arthur and Lancelot and Guinevere. We're just kind of cashing in on the popularity of that milieu, of those character names, the legend, etc. So, in what way would a new war movie be particularly a Call of Duty movie, unless, of course, it's based on characters from established series like the Modern Warfare or Black Ops series? And would they want to go back to World War II? I don't know. So one of the easiest ways to look at this is another cash grab, another rights grab, so we can cash in on an intellectual property, on name recognition only. And are we just going to produce a generic action war movie that could be anything, but we're slapping the Call of Duty name on it? But I thought this was interesting because it sort of straddles the line between the gaming sphere and the entertainment sphere. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. I feel like it's almost akin to Disney buying Star Wars and yet not ultimately knowing what to even do with the brand to make it Star Wars, and just kind of slapping some stuff together and throwing the Star Wars label on it, which in some places it seems like some of it has been rather slapdash and jammed together and not very well constructed. So I think, again, it'll be interesting to follow, and I will be following that story from here. So that brings us to the end of the news. Remember, if you have comments, please send them by email to indianagympodcasts@gmail.com. So we're going to get into the discussion. I first kind of heard rumblings about this on X, on Twitter, but I wanted to bring this piece here from Kristen McTiernan, who is an author and editor. She is on Substack at Fictional Influence, also on YouTube. The article, "The Cancel Pigs Are Still Here," subtitled, "Authors Are Not Yet Free to Say True Things." And one of the things that I'm very concerned with is freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of having an opinion. And I think that's an important human right, not just an American one. The article begins, quote, "It's not happening. Okay, it is happening, and it's a good thing. And if you disagree that it's a good thing, that's violence. That means anything I do to you is self-defense," unquote. Last week, a lady I have never spoken to or heard of was driven off Twitter. Her crime? Author Jordan Lee noticed that literary agents weren't interested in the kinds of books she was writing. specifically because she is white, straight, and female, and her characters are all straight. She didn't spell this out, but I assume her main characters are white as well. Which could be, we don't know that for certain. But this was her tweet here. Reasons I think I'm being rejected, honestly. Number one, I wrote another young adult dystopian novel. And haven't we all heard by now that the young adult dystopian novel market is saturated? Two, I am querying a debut novel that is the first in a trilogy. Okay. Yes, we have heard that it is difficult for authors without an established platform to get book one of a trilogy represented versus a standalone novel, because a trilogy naturally incurs more risk. Number three, I am a straight cis white female who writes straight cis females. Cis, another shorthand for normal, but we'll use it since it is a reasonably understandable shorthand. And my query is weak. Many different possibilities for why her work may be being rejected by agents. And she also posts this further comment. For those of you not understanding why I mentioned that I think a reason why I'm being rejected is because I write cisgender characters in heterosexual relationships, because that's what I can relate to and have experience with. I have seen this in a lot of lit agents' manuscripts would like, I think, MSWL. And she posts this, especially interested in non-straight romances and or non-white characters for this genre. And this shouldn't be a surprise. No matter which side of the political spectrum you live on, it's obvious that agents and editors would be interested in finding something that isn't quite as heavily represented. And they are interested in boosting what we call underrepresented, more marginalized voices, right? That's a common refrain we hear. And the publishing industry been dominated by straight white men or straight white females for so many years. So it's understandable that there would be a desire to expand the marketplace to marginalized voices. And whether you like it or don't like it, that's just kind of the reality of the market. However, the response wasn't in the sense of the reality of a market. And Kristen continues, well, of course, the woke scolds, though out of power in general, are still very much in control in Trad Pub, and they weren't going to allow Jordan to notice these things. If you thought that the majority of odious cancel pigs moved over to Blue Sky, you'd be wrong. Oh, they went for a while, but they came back. They always come back. And they shared Jordan's post far and wide, demanding their pound of flesh. Here's an example. No one wants my writing because I am a straight, cis white female who writes straight, white, cis females. I can tell you whining like this because you're in a position of privilege is not how you get an agent either. Now, is there anybody confused? Like, was she whining? Let's go back and take a look at that. Does this look like whining? This is simply a factual statement that one of the reasons she might be being rejected is maybe in a sense she's not as interesting to some people. And that's totally fine because agents and editors have a right to pursue the sort of works that they want to publish and that they want to represent. It's not worth getting into your feelings about. It's simply a market reality. And Jordan Lee, I think, is looking at market realities. Another young adult dystopian novel. Check. Debut novel first in a trilogy. Check. My query might be weak. Check. Straight cis white female who writes straight cis females. Check. Those are market realities. This isn't whining. And yet, of course, the woke scolds will get on here. And how about, and that's just a thought, we check our white cis het privilege and instead of whining, try to uplift those who are right now actively being silenced and erased. No one's being erased. Shut up. only a mediocre writer can't write from perspectives that don't match their own. Why should your book be published when your writing apparently isn't up to par with industry standard? Now, aren't we routinely told by the woke scolds that you can't represent a black character if you're white. You can't represent a gay character if you're straight. You can't appear on screen. Let's take Antonio Banderas in The 13th Warrior. You're not allowed to appear on screen as an Arab because you're a Spaniard, right? We didn't hear this back then, but this is kind of the thing now. It's like you're not allowed to represent a transgender person on screen if you are not yourself transgender. Why couldn't you get a gay actor to be in, what was the Imitation Game, right? Benedict Cumberbatch, who, as far as we know, straight, white, cisgender. Why do you get him to represent the gay Alan Turing instead of a gay actor, right? We hear this all the time. You know, if you'd like to see more gay men representing gay men on screen, more power to you. Not a problem. But let's not, on one hand, demand that that the representation and the performance be a one for one. But let's not also say that, well, your writing's just not up to snuff because you can't write from a perspective that doesn't match your own. Which way do you want it, guys? The screeching at Jordan wasn't enough. They also piled onto an agent, Shannon Snow, a creative media agency, who had asked to read Jordan's full manuscript as she considered representing her. She then rescinded that offer due to the pile-on. It's come to my attention I requested material from an author unkind and ill-intentioned in the writing community. Well, let's go back. Where's the unkindness? I write cisgender characters in heterosexual relationships because that's what I can relate to and have experience with. Let's see. I see it in agents' manuscripts that they want. Market realities over here. Please tell me where the unkindness is. It's not there. While participating in these pitch events, we only glance at the pitch as we scroll a hashtag with thousands of tweets, but myself and my agency value ourselves on representing authors who bring a positive intention to the community, with a primary focus to uplift and promote marginalized voices as much as possible. This is of great importance to me and will continue to be at the forefront of my submissions. This is another lame virtue signal. Please don't attack me. I'm one of the good guys. I'm on your side. Just trying to diffuse a mob over someone you have no professional relationship with. And yet she has the audacity to call her unkind and ill-intentioned. Oh, breaks the heart. Kristen continues, even though Shannon fell over herself apologizing, insisting she didn't mean to request a full from a bitch. The cancel pigs continued to take shots at her. Now, if you're not in the query trenches yourself, you might be confused. Why isn't Jordan allowed to notice that agents are saying, in writing for all to see, that they don't want straight or white stories? Why is it wrong to then conclude that her work is being sidelined because she is both straight and white? Look at this one. Majority of the 4 people voicing support in the comments on her newer posts are all definitely give male MAGA anti-woke authors, which is a crazy crowd to align yourself with. Yeah, crazy to align yourself with other people being maligned in public, isn't it? Here's what Kristen goes on to say, but here's the thing to Jordan and everyone like her. You don't have to vote Republican to walk away from an industry and people who hate you. You don't have to join a new brand or new club. You don't have to wear a hat or a red hat or wave a flag or take your shirt off and paint slogans on your frontal region, though that last one might accelerate your follower growth. You only have to seek out people who like what you're writing and market to them. Talk to them, engage with them. That's the community you should be invested in. The one that gets excited about the world you create and gets excited for your success. The way to do that is marketing through networking, social media, paid ads, long form and short form, video and print. I like the last quote from this story. And if you find yourself being canceled, remember, you don't have to consent to it. You don't have to accept the premise of their argument. You certainly don't need to nuke your account. Give them the finger and keep moving. If you won't stand up for your work, who else will? And I can not endorse, per se, giving people the finger, but perhaps figuratively. So, of course, in the realm of internet discourse, there's not just the pile-on. There is the echo chamber gossip mill, right? That everyone sits and talks about the person like it's high school or something. So Jordan Lee ended up deleting her Twitter account, but then she got back on there and posted this. She quote tweeted or quote posted, "Share a testimony from the future. It all came to pass. By the way, a famous YouTuber on BookTube, millions of views, had just quote tweeted my bestie talking about you. Jordan, this is already a bad look on you and you don't want to make the hole bigger. Take a long social media break, apologize with your heart and reflect. Do this for your future." This is how they try to exert control. They don't have any real power, so they just leverage the gossip mill. And then later, Kristen posted a response, a commentary from author and Pulitzer Prize nominated playwright Tia Genet, who left her comments about the publishing world. This from a black woman in Chicago. Let's see. Here's the rub. For too long, the industry published nothing but white guys. Think Harold Robbins, Sidney Sheldon, that silent generation, baby boomer generation. We all know this at this point. Every now and again, you get white women if they are good, quote. Think Colleen McCullough, Jackie Collins, Agatha Christie. Then the 1970s happened, and smaller imprints gave regular folks a chance. From a heroin addict locked up in jail, Donald Goines, to the white Jewish guy that loved exploitation, Leo Gold, to the black militants like Angela Davis or Melvin Van Peebles' fiction, Bear for the FBI, to the white guy that wrote white detectives that somehow got culturally reappropriated to black, then wrote nothing but black books for a while, Ernest Tidyman. That era was awesome. There was room for everybody, and smaller imprints got shine. Across the board, people could write, even having black female writers in sci-fi, Octavia Butler. Going into the 1990s, anybody that could write a good story, no matter their politics or their story's direction, could get a deal. That's why there were so many black writers in the 90s. That went on a good 20 years. Then we got post 9/11, quote, when the world changed, and everything went back to polarization. The black writers of the 1990s, deals canceled. The Latino writers, deals canceled. No surprise this happened parallel to the digital revolution where we went from paper and pencil to computers and emails. The more involved with the digital world literature went, the more it shifted back to the white guys. But this time it's IP, so we get way too much Tom Clancy, Michael Crichton, Jeff Lindsay, George R.R. Martin, etc. While that was going on, the lipstick lesbian trust fund girls with too much money to get a real job became agents. Keep in mind that a chick like Jackie Collins, who made HarperCollins a effing $1 billion in her lifetime, got kicked off the imprint because of Karens coming for her. Were minority writers getting published? Sure. Were they making the same type of money as Jeff Lindsay? No. It was a 360 deal, essentially, leaving that writer without ownership of their work and, in most cases, little to no advance money. Now, that, to be fair, has been happening to every author, especially nowadays. Next thing you know, we have genre-based imprints. That never happened before. We have an entirely new publishing industry as the old guys retire or die off, agents and writers alike, and the new young generation is wearing their politics on their sleeve via social media, and it's about hype instead of substance. So now, white men bad. Now let's put on the white women. Let's not have black writers, let's have BIPOCs, which is a term I detest. Everything becomes marginalized, segregated, and even the indies follow this bullcrap suit and gatekeep the stuff. I am neutralizing some of the profanity just for my own listeners. So now, thanks to about 15 years of all this, and yeah, it's a multifaceted issue, and I'm trying to get through all the major points, we have anti-white, anti-pro-black, anti-everything that isn't following a narrative of a high school clique of agents and publishers alike. That funny how the black girl from Chicago notices the same high school clique mentality. At the moment, they are just collecting properties to sell to streaming. Now there's really no literary home for anyone not but kissing siding with the Democrats, not using pronouns, and just speaking their own mind and writing their dang books. No longer does it matter if you do the work. It's all about checking boxes so the agents keep the henpeck order in line. If you read some of the rejections I've gotten over the years from agents who I know never read my novel, how they send back a form letter of how they are not passionate about it, you'd laugh your butt off. And these are the people avoiding real talent like us and signing half-way writers that they really ain't doing crap with either. It's all a ruse. I blame the writers who take it upon themselves to self-gatekeep. Shut the bleep up and do your own work. Stay in the lane you're cool with. If you can't do that, kiss my black booty. 4 words I implore even white writers to say when they are given flack. If those types of writers would just shut the blank up and stay off social media trying to get a hand pat from Penguin Random Schuster, the indie scene would be stronger, more put together, better collaborative, and no need for 1,001 imprints. Instead, all you see is endless anthologies no one asked for that no one is reading, fewer novels in certain genres being released, and more backdoor gatekeeping. The bigger conversation needs to be about the state of modern publishing. Keep in mind, agents are typically trust fund babies who have no idea what makes a good book, and lately are competing with authors, publishing books alongside picking up clients, which is highly unethical. So, some final thoughts. I like this. Cancel culture is not a participation sport. Let's see. You can choose to ignore it, but it does not stop the gossip folks who live to tear people down from doing just that. So taking the high road does not work. If you or your agent or your imprint love your book enough, you or them should defend it. Under no circumstances do you let buttholes run you off your social media, tell them to kiss your black booty, and keep it moving. When these loudmouths go low, you go lower. Now, I don't know about that. I don't know that I can go with that because that doesn't jibe with my personal beliefs, but I like the sentiment. Sort of. What's the takeaway from this whole exploration into the internet gossip mill? Number one, now this is just my opinion. This is just the way I feel about it. I think to survive, you have to, number one, be convinced of your own beliefs. You can't just spout off into the ether. Now, you can if you don't have much of a following. You can spout off into the ether. But you have to understand, if you state something in public that you're not prepared to defend, you may find yourself being challenged on that. Number two, don't apologize. Now, I want to say that with a caveat. If you say something that you know was intended to be hurtful, apologize if you make a mistake like that, or if you do something willfully wrong or willfully rude. If you feel compelled to apologize, by all means, you should do that. But what I mean by don't apologize is when you say something that you know to just be based on the facts, that agents and editors are, by and large, pursuing marginalized voices for their representation or for their publishing. If someone doesn't like that idea, tough for them, I think. That goes back to being convinced of the things you believe and the things that you know to be true and you know to be factual. So I think in one sense, you don't engage with, as Kristen called them, the woke scolds. Me, I just say don't engage with the politically correct police, which is what we used to call this whole thing back in the 90s. Wasn't called wokeness. It was just called political correctness. It's the things you do or say so that you will be accepted by the in-group. And didn't we all learn this as kids? Didn't we all learn that compromising your beliefs to be a part of the in-group was wrong? Didn't we realize this when we grew out of bullying people? Like when the nerds, which is us, were all part of the out group. Didn't we deal with this enough? But the new generation that's come along, they don't realize this. And so if you are part of the out group, you get bullied, you get ostracized, you get piled on because everybody wants their bit of engagement. Everybody wants to get their likes. Everybody wants to get those replies going. Everybody wants to build their own platform off the backs of someone else's embarrassment, I guess. And so while I appreciate the sentiment that, if they go low, you go lower, that's one way to defend yourself. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think bullies want to see you suffer. Trolls want attention. And the more you let them see you sweat, the more you let them see that it affects you, that gives them the power. I worked in elementary school. I dealt with kids that didn't know how to handle teasing and didn't know how to handle bullying and didn't know how to handle people making fun of them. And that's one of the critical lessons that kids just can't learn, but you need to. And maybe you can learn this as a teenager, or maybe you need to learn this as an adult. But the more you give into that, the more that you let them see that you're suffering, the more power that gives them, the more they want to use that power. It's common understanding that most bullies are themselves bullied by someone else bigger than them. And so in order to feel less impotent, in order to feel some power for themselves, they have to take that out on someone else. They have to make someone else feel powerless so that they can feel powerful because they themselves feel powerless. And an entire generation has been taught that the goal of getting educated and going to college and getting your degree and the whole goal of life is to change the world. Well, let me tell you, you can't change the world by yourself. All you can do is make the world around you better for others. And in that case, in that sense, you are changing the world because you're changing a very small corner, your small corner of the world for others. And I think so many people online bought the lie that they could change the world, that they could get a degree, that they could get a great job, that they could make millions of dollars, and in some sense are burdened by a sense of unfairness, that the world is unfair, that it's kind of where we get the sentiment to eat the rich. It's like, well, we're jealous of the power and the wealth that those people have, and so we tear them down at every turn. And anybody who we don't like or we disagree with, we have to tear down publicly. We have to roast online because, again, that brings the likes to us. That brings the followers to us. That brings the engagement to us. So to me, in my mind, the best way to deal with people who can't handle you expressing how you feel, don't give them the satisfaction. Let them pile, mute the thread, mute the notifications, let them engage in their echo chamber. Now, there are some real world consequences to this. There are people, if you're looking, again, to traditional publishing as the place where you're going to make your career, well, it's all a game at this point. And if you don't play by the rules of the game, you don't get invited to be in the club. And if being in the club is more important to you than expressing yourself honestly and truthfully, then you probably shouldn't be an artist. You probably shouldn't be a writer. If that's the way you want to go, that's great. If the publishing industry is so cowardly that they are not going to embrace voices that they themselves disagree with, then what is publishing but another giant echo chamber, a money-making scheme built on the back of political correctness? The only option at that point is either find a publisher or a small press that embraces who you are and what you write, and don't look at it as the end-all be-all because you're trying to build your platform. The publishing industry, the current publishing model is not going to support you financially, but it can be a useful marketing tool to build your platform so that you yourself can benefit financially from your own intellectual property. That's why, in my consideration for publishing, I was entirely bought into indie publishing and self-publishing, and I've done some of that. But I think what I'm realizing is there are publishers out there who could be a good home for me. If you feel like maybe bootstrapping your indie publishing empire, the work I'm currently engaged in with the Blade Wielders series would be a good fit probably for a small press like, say, a Bain or the newly formed Arc Press. Now these are more libertarian-leaning publishing houses. Bain is by no means one of the big publishers, but given the massive rights grabs in modern publishing, Bain can still get your book into bookstores, which is not the be-all, end-all. It's a marketing tool. It's advertising. You as an author still have to do the lion's share, the legwork for promoting your own works and promoting your own books and engaging with the audience. That's really on the author, not the publisher, to do. And it's not on your agent to do. Anyway, I think that's going to about cover it. I think I've beat that topic into the ground pretty well at this point. If you're listening to the show via your favorite podcast app and want to hear more, please make sure to follow the podcast. And if you like what you hear, please leave a rating or review in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever that option is available. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to click the like button and subscribe to the channel. And remember to leave your comments down below. You can check out my books and other creative projects by visiting indianajim.substack.com. I will have links to my published works to wherever you like to purchase your ebook titles. You can also subscribe to my author newsletter, where you'll find more in-depth examinations of the craft of writing, analysis of stories in books, movies, and TV shows, and authentic essays about the creative life. If you are on the X platform, please follow me at Indiana Jim. If you prefer Blue Sky, you may follow me over there at Indiana-Jim. Once again, with your feedback, if you would email indianajimpodcasts@gmail.com, whether you want to send a text email or send a voice memo from your smartphone, you can do both over there. So once again, thank you so very much for listening. You have chosen wisely. Think about a movie like First Night. Sean Connery, yeah. Oh, that's, whew.